Hello, hello, hello.
Hello.
Hey,
So good to see you.
yeah, so good to see you, Andrea. I am Kristen Gutierrez, your host for the Confident Leadership Series, and we stream live every Thursday at 8:30 a.m. Pacific on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and lots of fun places. I am a best-selling author of Be a Better Sales Leader, a keynote speaker on topics like resilience, getting out of your own way, and taking action. But enough about me. I am so grateful to be joined by my good friend and one of my coaches, Dr. Andrea Vitz. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm so honored to be here. I'm so excited to be able to add value to all of your audience and all the people that you serve. So, however you want to utilize me, let's do it.
Okay. I mean, because listen, guys, like a half hour or 20 minutes, like it's not even enough. I want to make sure before and after we end, like you drop your podcast link in the chat, after you drop your book link, and all types of goodness, because I've just learned so much from you in the last 6 months or so, right? That like it's truly an honor to share you with everyone. Thank you for your time. So, how to handle, why don't you first just like tell us about you? Because like, let's set the
Sure.
stage.
Yeah, sure. So I developed emotional sobriety training, which helps people overcome their emotional addiction, which leads to destructive behaviors in relationships and threatens companies, etc. So, it's really a matter of understanding that your emotions come from a certain place. Your emotions are chemistry. Your chemistry becomes addictive. And we get caught in this loop of feeling the same way because we believe a certain way about ourselves from a very long time ago. And when we believe a certain way about ourselves, we are going to filter that through the rest of our life. So for example, if I have a abusive situation as a child that left me with a belief about me, every time I have a conversation with you, Kristen, I'm going to filter that through my belief. Even if you don't mean anything like that, even if it's totally absurd that I would think that, and I've completely interpreted it, right? It's like interpreted, you guys, it's early. Interpreted it. If I've interpreted it to mean something about me, that's why I love you, G. If I've interpreted it to mean something about me, then that means that I now am flooded with these emotions, and these emotions make me behave in ways I would never consciously choose. I think of it as being emotionally drunk or emotionally belligerent, and every single one of us has some form of emotional insobriety. Every
Yeah.
one of us. Like we can't get out of it. So, one of the biggest things that I'm hired to teach people is how to handle conflict by preventing conflict, firstly. But then what do I do when I'm actually in it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, let's set the stage. Let's set the stage because I know like we're going to talk about handling conflict at work, but most people are hearing the term emotional sobriety probably for the first time right now. And like, oh my God, how ninja is this? I have your book here. So Andrea has written a book and a supplemental workbook, right? And I'm begging her to get it onto Audible. So get it onto Audible. But
Okay.
emotional sobriety is something that once you really truly understand what it's all about, hence go to her podcast and listen, right? Or get a free call with her. It changes your whole life. Andrea literally, and like you know this, and I've cried on the phone with you many of times now, like in one call, Andrea changed my life. Like literally changed my life. Because once you realize what emotional sobriety is, and I don't even want to try to describe it, but like all the various complexities of it, the emotional belligerence, right? It becomes this thing where, again, she knows like I will pay to coach her. I will pay her every quarter to make sure that she's in my back pocket, because it's like emotional sobriety is like an umbrella, which then applies to your personal relationships, your friendships, your marriage or lack thereof, your children, right? Your work, And it really like there's the same strategy, yet somewhat different strategy. So I didn't want to like gloss over like maybe the definition of emotional sobriety, if you could say it again, and then just also really like
Yeah,
walk
sure.
so into this because
Right. Yeah. So emotional sobriety is being level-headed, clear, and truly peaceful within
Mhm.
you, regardless of circumstance. And that's why emotional sobriety, if you practice it, you become a master at it. You become the calm in the storm.
Yes, the
You,
steady.
you become that leader that people completely trust. They can approach no matter what with anything. And being that beacon of real peace, not shoving down resentment, not shoving down fear, but being
Mhm.
so confident and so healed within yourself and so mature. Believe me, we have untapped maturity. Everyone has this untapped level of self responsibility that they can dive into that they've never even considered.
Yeah.
Never even considered. So that's what I teach. I teach people how to overcome that consistent cycle of feeling a certain way that they
Mhm.
may not even be aware of,
No, we're not.
that leads them to
Why
behaving
am
in
I
ways.
so resentful? Why do
Yeah,
I hate this person so much? Like, that's bad to say, but that's emotionally belligerent. Like, why are they doing this to me? The
right.
irony, here I am speaking about job loss and now on stages about things happening for us, not to us. And it is easy for me to detach emotion from why I lost my job and how I use that to transform and reinvent myself, right? But for some reason, like we all have a pecking order with like work matters this much and familial relationships like matter this much. And
Yeah.
like I can get over it on one hand, but I couldn't get over it on another. Like
Right.
resentment and all of this, like things happen to me. It's not happening to us. It's not like we
Right.
have to change.
Right. Because most of the things that we think are happening to us is an interpretation based on a trauma influenced self belief.
Yep. And
A
filters.
belief about you. Yes, we are filtering something that has nothing to do with anything we're actually talking about. How many times have you been in a conversation with somebody at work or with your partner or one of your kids where they're saying something to you that they're kind of like off the rails? They're screaming at you or they've just completely lost their minds, it seems like. And you're sitting there like, what just happened? What just happened? Like I'm just talking. And all of a sudden this person lost it. It's because something you said or didn't say, let's face it, was interpreted through their filter of trauma, which flooded them with chemistry, emotions, and
Mhm.
now they're totally belligerent, totally drunk on emotion. Now they're reacting or reenacting something from their past, a way that they survive to get you to shut up, to get you to understand, to get you to hear them, to punish you, whatever it is, to get their way.
Mhm.
And they do it so subconsciously and it's so natural to them that they don't even notice. But to
Right. But
you,
you keep saying them, but like, I mean, I will be so vulnerable to be like, guys, this is me, right? Like
right.
them that she is describing is me. Like I am the one. And that's amazing that I can come to a place already in such a short amount of time to like
Yeah.
claim accountability for that. Right. And like
Right on.
wear it as like a badge of honor or what, not really, but like whatever. I mean, it's like, it's not a scarlet A anymore. Let's just say that. Right.
That's
Like
it.
I'm
That's
okay with
it.
it. Like I was and still am at times emotionally belligerent. Like, why am I kicking, screaming, all the things that you do as a kid, as an adult? Oh, it's just so like you guys have to tune in to her podcast because the thing I know I'm like taking us off script, but like the thing I love about your podcast, she kept saying, go to my podcast. And I'm like, yeah, I'm busy. And then I finally went to her podcast on Spotify, which is my app of choice. And I'm like, 700 episodes. She's off her rocker. But then I did what I do, which is I put one foot in front of the other. I took a little bit of action, right? Action creates a momentum and snowball. And I realized, holy cow, her episodes are like 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute. Like your episodes are so snackable. They're so short. And this interaction that you and John have is just phenomenal. And your voice is something I could listen to for hours and hours. So it's, yeah, like it's so, you got to check out. So we'll make sure we put your podcast link in.
You got it. Well, I love what you just said, Kristen, about like, I'll be vulnerable. I'll take accountability. I'm this. The reason I'm giving you an example of what it's like being on the other side of that violent, energetic attack of someone else, or even like an avoidant, scared, manipulative kind of sneaky attack. We are all the same. This is something that can't be said enough. And if you ever take a class with me, you're going to hear me say it 100 times. We're all the same. We all struggle with some form of emotional insobriety, different flavors, but the mechanism is the same. So when you're standing there totally surprised about another person's behavior, another person's belief, another person's emotional intoxication, you can stop and say, wait, they just don't know what they're doing the same way I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
The reason that they don't know and the reason that you're not fully aware is because you're in a normal state to you. You're reacting the way that you learned to react because it was around you all the time. And when you see somebody else's reaction, it's shocking. It's like, oh, gross. So can't believe you would ever do that. And you're just like immediately into judgment, immediately into storing more resentment and why you're better, internally. You're not better. You're just different. But we're all actually the same in mechanism through which we make these mistakes. Even the highest level leaders that I've worked with, hundreds and hundreds of people, make these same common mistakes when it comes to conflict. And so maybe I can just touch on that really quick.
Yes, I was going to say, let's pivot because, otherwise I could talk
all
day. So I feel like you have, though, a good framework and a foundation, right?
Yeah.
And then just a plug again, like me, Andrea and I, we met at the same place. So we share mentors. And so she too does master classes. So when she says attend a class, she means like a virtual online class where she coaches through some of this stuff. So let's talk about the main topic today, how to handle conflict at work. Yes.
You got it. Right. So one of the most important things that we have to do as leaders is we have to know ourselves. That is one of the most common mistakes that all leaders I've ever worked with make, is they don't know themselves enough. And if you don't know yourself enough, you don't know your anatomy, what brings forward your insobriety, then you're not going to be able to avoid conflict or understand anyone else in conflict. So handling conflict comes down to seeing where we are all the same, which we just touched on really, really well. So when we have a lack of awareness, we don't even know where we're creating conflict or contributing or maintaining conflict. So this is really important because if we don't know how we are also contributing or where we're off course, then we're always going to place the blame outside of us and be continuously surprised by the behaviors of others, like we just discussed. So that's super important, is you know thyself. And I have attached a free gift for you guys, for your audience, specifically around this to help you become more aware, know who you're really being from a behavioral standpoint, right? Just the very first symptom of insobriety, the most obvious symptom of insobriety is our behaviors, because everybody else can see them. Right? They're right out there in the open. So it's the easiest thing to uncover. You're going to go through this checklist that I give you. It's called Find My ETBs, or what I call emotionally triggered behaviors. And you're going to go through line by line and just ask myself, do I do this? You could ask your partner, your family members, your friends, your colleagues. Make sure that you ask people that you really trust and feel comfortable around, that you're not going to get defensive with. But ask them, like, do I ever seem manipulative? Do I ever become childish? Do you notice me being dishonest or
Dishonest.
Think that
Out
I
for a minute. Sorry, you cut out for a minute. It's dishonest. I love it. Like, yeah, start back over at what the ETBs are because people don't know, right? And like,
we don't know. Yeah, you're going
I
to
want to
know.
come
You're going to know. I would love to teach
childish.
ETBs. Yeah, we've got defensiveness is the first runner, guys. We put that fence line in our way of anyone else, totally protecting ourselves. We also have this snappy, just instantly react and attack somebody, right? You know, that snappy. We also can be defensive in a different way. It's a little bit more avoidant. Like I just won't communicate, right? I
Mhm.
won't I won't say what I need to say because I don't want to rock the boat, right? So we want to make sure that we are being fully authentic and humble around looking. We're just looking at what we're really doing. So defensiveness is that first one. You notice yourself getting offended easily. That is a huge sign that you may have defensiveness. Now, the second one I would consider childishness. Childishness, now, no one likes to admit they're childish, but I'm going to raise my hand. I used to be extremely childish. In fact, I had all the emotionally triggered behaviors, you guys. So don't worry if you have any of them. Childishness, when you think that you're a grown up, if you're a leader, if you're a parent, and you look in the mirror and you're like, no, I'm a grown up. I have all these successes. It's really hard to say, like, oh, but I behave with childishness a lot. So I want you to read the reasons that you might be childish or the ways specifically. And one of those ways is throwing a tantrum. Yes, adults throw tantrums,
Oh, yeah.
giving the silent treatment, slamming doors, scoffing, stomping, um, not using your voice because you're afraid of getting in trouble. There's so many ways that we revert to being a child because we learned how to behave in those ways as a child. And we've just gotten into a time machine, emotionally speaking, when we are flooded with emotion. Now, all of a sudden, we're 5.
Hmm.
So the idea that you would behave like a child is not so far-fetched. So like, be open, be okay with it. Because if you don't look, you can't edit. If you don't look, you can't edit. So now,
But I love the part where you say ask. So I do this activity with my clients and on stages where we lean into our superhero strengths. And so it's parallel and you're asking your team members, your colleagues, your direct reports, your managers, like, what are some of my strengths? Because the reason why we're going to ask other people what some of, do I exhibit some of these ETBs? Do I exhibit defensiveness or childishness? While it's not going to necessarily feel good, feedback is a gift, right? And ultimately, like the faster that or just like the more we can be clear on things that we might not be seeing, then we can really truly become honest with ourselves. And then we can actually truly start to fix it because none of us want to acknowledge necessarily we have these things. But I mean, the work I've had to do with you, like, it's hard, right? Like, I'm like, Andrea, I don't want to do this. I don't want to pull up all of these old things that I've blocked out and whatever I've compartmentalized at work, about work or anything else. And so it's a really important part where we're being honest with ourselves per your worksheet. And then we're actually doing the whole worksheet probably, which is like asking other people, like you said.
yeah. Well, I love it. And also you mentioning that it's hard, but was it worth it?
Oh my gosh. I mean, yes, like literally worth it. It's so worth it. I mean, that's why I said
Wonderful.
pay to keep you around. I'm going to pay to
Hey,
keep you
you're
around forever.
so I want you guys to recognize that it's totally normal to be avoidant to look. That's why so many of us kind of wander around in the blame cycle. We don't want to look, or we can't even imagine that we have these things that we judge other people for having, but we all do. So find your specific emotionally triggered behaviors. The next one would be judgmentalism, where we're judging other people or judging ourselves. Jealousy. Jealousy is a behavior, right? It's the eye roll. It's the picking the fight because you're afraid of losing something or somebody doing better than you, right? You have now secondary addiction. I call it secondary addiction: drinking alcohol, smoking cigarettes, vaping, smoking weed. Maybe you're gambling. Maybe you're hoarding. What is in your life that you know is too much? right? It's a secondary addiction because we only have one primary addiction. In my experience, our primary addiction is emotional addiction. We're chemically addicted to the emotions that we are so chronically attuned to creating. So, yes, secondary addiction. Very important to clean those up. In fact, huge props to anyone who's ever quit drugs, alcohol, etc. Love it. Coffee, absolutely. Psychoactive drug. We often want to pull that out. Let me just say it this way. If you don't want to get into a conflict at work or at home, stop drinking coffee. Like that's going to help you immediately. Because if I were to grab a cup of coffee right here and it said anxiety on it, this is water, by the way. If it said anxiety, would I drink it? Heck no, I wouldn't drink it. If I drank something, if it said like anxiety, irritability, impatience, right? I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't drink it. So knowing what you're putting in your body is super important. So again, knowing yourself is such an important component of handling conflict, understanding other people, because once you understand yourself, you understand everyone else because we're all the same.
And and you stop making it about them and you actually make it about you so that you can actually, so that when somebody does something to quote annoy you at work or at home, it's actually not annoying anymore because you realize how you're filtering the annoying behavior and that they're also coming from a place of filters and ETBs, etc. And it's not about you, right? And so yes, like you don't have to like the behavior per se, but you don't have to be so annoyed at it that it causes agitation and then resentment and then anger and then all these things.
Yeah, it turns you into a Hulk version of yourself, which is what I call the intoxicated identity. It's the version of you that feels totally normal to you and survives in the way that it survives, but it's not really you. You know, because when you become more emotionally sober, the real you is exposed. And one of the things I like to talk about is that I believe this is a dawning age of self-responsibility, where we're going to make self-responsibility and emotional sobriety the sexiest thing in the world. Like it's going to become the thing that people are hooking each other up with, people saying like, okay, if I'm hooking you up with this girl, I just want you to know she's so emotionally sober. Like she's so self-responsible. Instantly, that person is more attractive. We're not talking about financial status anymore. We're not talking about looks anymore. We're literally like only honed in on how emotionally sober is this person? Can I trust them emotionally speaking? And are they going to value and appreciate the fact that I've done the work to become emotionally sober? That I believe is going to be the dawning age of self-responsibility. It's just going to become the new hottest thing, right? So
how do we get, so okay, so in the interest of time, right? Like we got to wrap up here soon. How do we get your worksheet?
Yes. Okay. So you can go to talk.ac/Andrea Vitz and type in the code, all caps, leader.
Okay.
Now this is gonna.
We'll put it in the notes after, right?
Awesome. So we'll put it in the notes after.
Talk.ac/Andrea Vitz. Okay.
Yes. And what that is, if you found this valuable at all, I mean, I could talk to you guys all day on this topic. So this short time, if this was valuable to you at all, if it opened your eyes at all, give me some feedback on that form and you're going to get a free gift. Find My ETBs, where you can go through each behavior that I've uncovered over a decade of work and research. These are the most common emotionally triggered behaviors that people deal with in their day-to-day life and don't even realize it. Or realize it, but they feel helpless and hopeless about changing it. And let me promise you, you're not hopeless. You are not helpless. I 100% can assist you and guide you through that process. You reach out to me anytime for a free call. And there's a link to a free call on that ETB.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
So talk.ac//Andrea Vitz.
That's me. Yeah. We could put the QR code and everything in.
Yeah, for sure. And I just tested it. It works. And I tested it and it wasn't working, but this is a user error, not A you error. This is what I get for multitasking. So yeah, so talk.ac/Andrea Vitz. And so we can set up a free call. We can get our worksheet there, right? And then, I mean, I would highly recommend, whether you have a situation at home or at work. For me, right? Like, and we all know, like, I have 2 kids, 5 and 3, and like we all know I'm also old, and we all know that like kids are just hard, and we all know all the things. But like the breaking point for me was like, I said I'm so vulnerable. I was like crying that day, right? I said to my friend Sean, to our friend Sean, and to you, I said, I'm living in a state of fight or flight. And at this point, my 3-year-old is 3. It's not like he's 3 months, right? So this is postpartum. This is all the things, like my body, just my mind, my emotions, all of my things, I couldn't get out of this fight or flight. And for me, that was like what felt like rock bottom, because I wanted to be a better mom. I wanted to be a better person. I wanted to be a better friend, sister, daughter, all the things, right? And that's why I came to you. So whether you're like me and you have this thing, or whether you're like, hey, I'm interested in this talk, I've never heard of this concept, emotional sobriety, right? I love how she puts emotional sobriety first. And then you say our other, what do you call them? Second level?
Secondary addiction.
Secondary addictions. The addictions we typically think are the primary addictions. She's put in second position. And there's so much reason and science as to why she has done that. And it makes so much sense when you learn. And so either do it because you're invested in continuous learning, right? Either do it because you might be like me and you're living in a state of fight or flight. Do it because you're agitated or you're annoyed or whatever. Like, I would just beg everybody to have a call with you.
Oh, I would love that. And I will come back here anytime too and complete our actual handling conflict.
Yes, there's so much to cover.
Because we just got one thing, you guys. It was one thing, know yourself better. And I love what you said, Kristen, about being a better person, because one thing that I like to tell people is if you want to be a better parent, leader, spouse, just be a better person. And it's so easy. It just be the real you.
Yeah.
Not behind all this emotional belligerence that you might not even be aware is holding you back. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a total honor.
Yes. 2 things. Remind me the code again. What's the code? I know we're going to put it in the show notes.
You got it. Yes, it's talk.ac.
No. Okay.
Oh, which codes, hon? Yeah?
Yeah, no, keep going.
Yeah. Talk.ac/Andrea Vitz. The code is leader.
Okay. Yeah. And then, just like to be a better sales leader, we need tools and strategies and tactics and like to learn. This is exactly what Dr. Andrea Vitz provides, which is the tools and the strategies and the tactics to be a better employee, be a better boss, be a better spouse, be a better this, be a better that. And so this is an honor to have you here with us today. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.